this? Oh my gosh, I did not know you could do live stuff on YouTube. That's amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Freedom Report podcast. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. For all our live audience, thank you very much for tuning in tonight. I'm sure that you guys are going to be really excited to meet a couple of new faces. These are people that you've never seen before. You know me. I'm your buddy, Leif Beaverson, Liberty Champion, freedom-loving libertarian. But I've got two wonderful, amazing, intelligent young women who just so happen to also be beautiful, which makes this much more fun, right? And I want to introduce you first. Before I introduce my special guest, I'd like to introduce my special guest, and that's Laura Myers. Laura, welcome to the show. Today is your first day. Laura, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm getting double of you, Austin.
Go ahead.
Okay, just kidding. I had to shut the YouTube link because I was hearing double of you. Yeah, so I am Laura. I'm from Kansas. I go to Kansas State University. I have written for TLR before, and now I am Austin's indentured servant for the summer. And I'm in Washington, D.C. for the second time, but extended time, and I'm really excited to be here. So,
all right, welcome. So, and our special guest is a girl by the name of Piper Mary. Piper is a junior at Aquinas College. She's a super Catholic, which is a small liberal arts school in West Michigan. She's working on a Bachelor of Science in Psychology, a minor in Biology. She's 20 years old, and she comes from a very conservative family. She's very religious, which is why this show is so scandalous, because she became instant famous today. Piper, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm really excited.
So, Piper, a photo circulated today of you wearing an American flag, and I want to talk about the sexiness factor, because obviously that's like what got people's attention, but there's a message behind the hotness. So before we sort of like get into the real issues here that we're going to talk about, like, what has been the reaction to this amazing photo that you've posted?
It's been really interesting, actually. I sent it to my mom right after I took it, and I was like, Mom, are you going to stand with Rand, like, as a joke? Because my mom and I, we just have that kind of relationship. And she goes, oh, yeah, like, Rand Paul, he's a hottie, too, so, like, this is all good. So it was just for fun, and then one of my friends, I took it on Snapchat and sent it to one of my friends. Obviously, nothing you put on the internet stays on the internet. So he told me, oh, I sent that to my friend's group chat, and they said, God bless America. And I thought, are you serious? Like, you screenshotted it and sent it to people? So then I thought, like, well, might as well put it on Twitter now and show some support for Rand Paul's filibuster tomorrow. A lot of kids my age won't really acknowledge anything political unless there's boobs involved. So I figured, why not try to get some attention to this filibuster tomorrow, and tweeted it out, and it didn't really blow up that quickly. I got, like, one of my friends called me and said, whoa, Piper, like, that was pretty scandalous, and I was like, well, I'm an adult, so I'm kind of like,
well, okay, I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said you're an adult, because I was getting in trouble because people were like, 15 years old, she's a child, Austin, you're a horrible pedophile. And I'm like, wait a minute, no, okay. She says she's going to vote for Rand. That means that she's old enough to vote, right?
Yes, I am 20 years old. I am, like, I'm pretty religious, pretty conservative. That's not, actually, I was trying on the bathing suit because I don't even really wear two-piece bathing suits in public. Only in, like, private pools, I just wear one pieces, so I thought, oh, one piece with American flag on it. Like, I love America. So I tried it on. Totally not like me to post a picture like that, but I thought it would be kind of funny. Shock factor, so.
Yeah, shock factor on an order of magnitude, I would say. But
yeah, it got quite a bit of more attention than I was anticipating, but.
Yeah, I anticipated that it would get a lot of attention when I posted it.
I thought I liked it. I thought it was classy. I thought it was patriotic. But I do, like, I'm 20 years old also, so I completely understand what you say when you are talking about our peers not really being interested unless there's boobs. It's true. So, I liked it.
Thank you.
I obviously liked it, but I'm trying not to up the creep factor. I'm going to keep it down. But I'm also 34 years old, so I'm a little bit out of your age range, ladies. Not that stopped me before, but for the sake of professionalism, I'll have to keep it on the DL. But I want to talk about the issues here. I want to use this as an excuse, your beautiful photograph, as an excuse to talk about what really matters here, Piper. And that is something that Laura and I were talking about earlier on our podcast today. We were talking about Rand Paul's filibuster. So I guess before we get into the real meat of that, I want to ask, like, what got you interested in Rand? I mean, you're a real libertarian. We were checking you out. You're not some, like, you know, semi-libertarian, pseudo-conservative type of stuff. Like, from what we were doing when Laura and I were creeping her, and I made sure that Laura was the one creeping, she was seeing some, like, real legit libertarian creds back there. So tell us about your libertarianism, and how did you come to find out about Rand Paul? Why do you like him so much?
Well, my dad is actually, he's a pastor, so fun fact. And he does, like, pastoral evaluations and stuff. He is super conservative, would probably vote for Ted Nugent if he ran. He's just kind of always been really, like, blunt about politics. So, naturally, I've just kind of grown up around politics, been really interested in them for as long as I can remember, and thought I was a diehard Republican like my dad, trying to be cool. And then I started, like, seeing some things in the Republican Party that I just thought, like, oh, I don't like that they're trying to restrict, you know, a lot of social issues that I didn't agree with. And so then I started thinking, oh my gosh, like, am I a Democrat? This is what? Like, it was like this moment of my dad's gonna kill me. And then I started watching these YouTube videos of this girl called the Libertarian Girl. She's hilarious. And I just thought, like, oh my gosh, everything she says makes so much sense. Fiscal conservative, social liberal, there's a name for this, this is exciting. Wow, I feel like I'm telling my coming out story right now, but so I thought, like, other people feel this way too. So I started getting really into Ron Paul, took a philosophy class last year, my freshman year of college, and my professor kept saying Rand Paul instead of Ron Paul, and I was like, I'm not talking about his kid, I'm talking about him. And he's like, well, you need to check out his kid. Like, his kid knows his shit, too. And I was like, all right. So checked it out, and before he announced that he was running, I was really hoping he would, and then he did, and started looking into him more. And I really agree with most things that he does, and I love his long filibusters. I think he's funny.
Piper, you are legit. You are the real deal. This is exciting. One of you has got, like, my audio coming out of the speakers or something. Is that me echoing here? I don't know,
me.
Laura, you might want to turn that down. Is that you? All right, somebody's got it. We got a little bit of echo.
Is it me?
I think it is you. I don't know.
Okay.
It should be it should be coming in through your earbuds. Anyways,
Yes.
all right. So, but no, Piper, how exciting! I mean, like, every time that I find somebody like you, a young person who knows what's going on, I mean, who is informed, I just get really giddy, because to me it shows that the real message of limited government and personal liberty, such as you've described it, socially liberal, fiscally conservative, exactly how I would describe myself, is getting out there. I'm not the only one, you know, we're not just this cult of ugly nerds dwelling in basements. There are smoking hot young libertarian women out there, which means that, I mean, sorry ladies, but we need you to survive. Our species only goes on if there are young, beautiful libertarian women out there. Don't you agree, Laura? Tell me about that.
Yes, I absolutely do agree. Yeah, we're far and few between, I think, because, you know, I go to the libertarian meetings at K-State, and there's only a couple of girls there, a handful of girls, and the guys are desperately seeking.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
P.J. O'Rourke, famous P.J. O'Rourke quote. He's a kind of a satire artist, and he's a libertarian guy, and he says, you know, wherever beautiful women are, there goes the country, right? So wherever the you know, right. So the philosophical ideas, you know, and you know, Piper is a great example. You know, she found libertarianism. You know, she found Libertarian Girl. She found Mary Ann, who is an incredible conduit for hundreds of thousands to millions of people that she speaks to about these ideas. And yeah, they come to see this beautiful girl talking about these new ideas, and maybe these are young men who are attracted to her, and I'm okay with that. She's okay with that. But the ideas are being spread. You know, ladies, I hate to complain because nobody cares about men's feelings or problems, but the hottest libertarian ladies lists, which I started making a couple of years ago, got me in so much trouble. I mean, so much trouble. Because what I've been trying to do is take these ideas that have so long been the realm of academia and have been the realm of the ivory tower elite, and they don't like letting go of these ideas. A lot of these libertarian professors get very angry when they see these lists because a movement needs to be cultural. It needs to be a cultural movement in order for us to spread ideas. I'm a veteran in this movement, in the liberty movement, but I saw this hole where libertarian ideas were not being spread in a cultural way, in a listicle way, in a way that a liberty viral BuzzFeed style way that was sexy, funny, fun, exciting, interesting, and cultural. There's Reason Magazine, but they're a nonprofit and they get tons and tons of money from the Koch brothers, and they sort of have to be that nonprofit think tanky thing. We can be fun and exciting because we're for profit, and that makes it much more interesting and exciting. Laura, you've been writing for a long time. I mean, I want to know what sort of influences you have, Laura, first, and then Piper, I want to know what you're reading and what influences you. So go ahead, Laura, you start first.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to touch on what you said just now. I wholeheartedly agree. For any idea, I think, to spread, marketing is important. So if you can put a pretty face on libertarianism, why not? I don't understand, why you wouldn't do that. That you can use that to your advantage. What influences me? I am a huge Greg Gutfeld fan. He is a commentator on Fox News, and he just has his own show coming out in 10 days. And he's funny, and he shares a lot of political satire. And just like I said, he markets libertarian-esque ideas really, really well because he's super funny, and he's quirky, and he dresses cool, and younger people are attracted to him. And so I just kind of try and use that philosophy and try and deliver my ideas like that too, especially when I write or do anything, present political ideas. If it's funny, attractive, people like it. So.
What about you, Piper? What do you read, and who inspires you?
Well, the Constitution, obviously, number one. Also, I'm not sure have you heard of Kat Timpf?
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, she works for, she used to work for a college group, but actually her sister was one of my good friends in high school, and so she told me, oh my gosh, you have to check out my sister, you guys have so much in common. So I've been, social media stalking her for a few years. I don't know, I watch a lot of Fox News. I know that's I should probably watch some other sources too, but grew up on Fox News. I like Ted Nugent. He's a little bit out there. I like anybody who's willing to put themselves out there, make people laugh, that don't take themselves too seriously. Ron Paul's obviously one of my favorites, and
Ron Paul's always the man. But let's talk about Rand Paul here for a second. Let's talk about Rand Paul's filibuster, Piper. I want to go back to you, and I want to hear what you have to say about Rand Paul's filibuster and the NSA. I mean, the National Security Agency is an agency that's tasked with their moniker. They're supposed to be keeping us safe. And Governor Chris Christie, who's ostensibly going to be running for president of the United States, said that we need to sacrifice some liberty in order to have security. But Senator Rand Paul says that we don't have to give up our liberty in order to remain secure. He says that we can honor the Constitution, we can stand firm on the Fourth Amendment, and that we can have liberty. That the role of the government is to protect liberty first, and that security is a distant second. I mean, what do you think when you hear people like Chris Christie saying things like that?
I think that's really disheartening because I really liked Christie at the beginning. I thought he was really out there and really honest. But I think it was Ben Franklin who said, what was it, about how people who are willing to sacrifice liberty to get security will have neither, and they don't deserve it. I just butchered that quote terribly, but it's really, whatever it is, it's really profound, I swear. But I'm a huge fan of the Bill of Rights because I'm an American, and so it's a little bit annoying when people say things like, oh, we can sacrifice a little bit of our freedom for some more security because we want to be safe, and I understand that, but but I really don't, because the Fourth Amendment says that we don't have to do that. And people do like to freak out, like that the NSA is spying on us and all this stuff, but I mean, we've been taking off our shoes at airports for years, so I don't think this is like a new thing that we're, allowing ourselves to be searched for a little bit more security when really, like, are we even really getting that much more security is the real question. When there's still bombings at the Boston Marathon, are we just going to start banning backpacks? Like, it's a slippery slope, but I think what Rand Paul's doing is exciting because he has like a no tolerance for it, and I think that you need to when it comes to the Constitution.
I'm blown away by your point of view here. I did not know what to expect when I saw that you were going to be able to come on the show today. I was kind of like, we get a lot of people that come on the show and maybe they're cute, but they don't have a lot to say substantively. But I'm just shocked at how much substance you have here, Laura. I mean, what do you think about this? I mean, wouldn't you agree with all of these points? I mean, this sounds like the standard liberty. It sounds like our movement is getting out. The word is getting out. And so let me ask you, Laura, what do you think when you hear people like Chris Christie saying we need to sacrifice our liberty for security?
That's how it starts. I mean, we touched on this earlier today when we were doing our podcast, Austin, but it's piece by piece, and I have, I've had a family member, we were having a debate about public radio or public television when the Sesame Street debate happened during the 2012 election between Romney and Obama, and he said, my conservative uncle and I were asking, our liberal family member, who watches this? How valuable is this? Does this require American taxpayer dollars? Is this really a benefit to the taxpayer? And he says, well, it's just a crumb. It's just a crumb in the pie or something like that. And you know what? A pie is made of crumbs. So if you slowly start taking away or, piece by piece, that's how your liberty will be stripped of you, is if you just let one thing slide and one thing by the excuse of safety or security. When I flew here and I went through TSA, someone messed up along the way through our TSA checkpoint and didn't highlight or circle something on my ticket, and I had to take my jacket off and have them go through a special sensor, and I had an earring in my pocket. I'm a lawful citizen, but I had to go through, I don't want to call it harassment, but excessive search, for an earring and a jacket.
So what's at stake here right now, ladies, is that the Patriot Act, they passed legislation that would get rid of the more egregious portions of the Patriot Act. It would end the unconstitutional aspects of it, which is the warrantless wiretapping of Americans. The House of Representatives passed it. President Obama said he would sign that bill. And Senator Rand Paul is attempting in the Senate to pass that legislation such as it is. Now, he has a big enemy right now fighting him on this, and his enemy just happens to be his best friend and senior senator from Kentucky, Mitch McConnell. Now, the dynamics of this are such that Senator Rand Paul needs Mitch McConnell runs for President of the United States. Senator Mitch McConnell is the most powerful Senate right now. The House and the Senate are both Republican majority controlled. The House passed the legislation, and now the Senate needs to pass the legislation. But nothing gets to the floor without the approval of Senator Mitch McConnell. Now, McConnell and Rand have got to go toe-to-toe in fisticuffs on whether or not to get rid of these warrantless wiretapping amendments. Now, what I think is going to happen is that McConnell is going to try and pass the bill exactly where he's going to try and cut those provisions out. So what do you think the dynamics of this are going to do? Do you think, Laura, if you could just look into the future, do you think this is going to be bad for Rand to have to fight the most powerful Republican who he sort of needs to help win the presidency? And if so, how do those dynamics play out if you had to guess?
I think, wherever the battle goes between Rand and McConnell, I think it's going to be the same as it would have been otherwise. I don't think Rand is going to win over any voters that support, McConnell's opposition to the bill currently. I don't foresee that happening. I'm friends with those voters, those conservatives that call themselves conservatives, and I just don't see them voting for Rand either way. And so, I think as in the way of him being elected president, I don't see that changing. I don't see, the voting base of McConnell versus Rand changing in any way. As for the bill, I mean, I think McConnell did say, correct me if I'm wrong, that he would allow a vote on the bill, but I hope it passes. I'm not sure.
We don't have any idea what's going to happen. I'd like to move on to some of the other presidential candidates now that we've covered the substance, and we've covered the sex and we've covered the substance. So let's move on. So let's go to a segue.
There you go.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about Ted Cruz because Senator Ted Cruz didn't join Rand Paul in his filibuster this time. So Piper, I'm curious, what do you think about Ted Cruz?
I think that Ted Cruz, he said some things. I liked him at first, and then he started saying some things that I just thought, like, you're really driving people away from these, like, good conservative ideas. And I don't know. Ted Cruz, he's, I think if he's going to run anytime soon, he's going to have a really hard time staying relevant, being authentic, convincing young voters to be on his side. I really hope he doesn't end up on the ballot because I don't think I could give him my vote, and don't really want to give it to Hillary Clinton either. So I think he's gonna have a hard time with getting any support from young voters.
Laura, what do you think about Ted Cruz?
So I'm going to make a connection here. I think Ted Cruz at Rand Paul's filibuster was sort of like the girls' reactions to the share of Piper's photo earlier today, Austin.
Yeah.
So we were talking about this. Austin shared your picture, and there were girls, and we were talking like the female reaction, and everybody gets super competitive, and they're like, oh, she's cute, but, And so I think Ted Cruz had the same attitude when Rand's up there. He's like, I mean, it's kind of cool, but whatever. I don't really want to support him because I'm against him. I think it's political. I think if the bill was up and Rand wasn't there, I think Ted Cruz honestly probably would have done the same thing that Rand did. I like Cruz. I don't see him winning a general election based off charisma, like Piper touched on. But, yeah, I don't think he wanted to fill the VP spot. Like, oh, I'll support Rand Paul, but he make him look like, the one in charge, and me look like the lesser guy because I'm running.
Yeah.
So I kind of like Ted Cruz, but I think that he's not my guy. He's not a libertarian like Rand is a libertarian. But I think that Ted Cruz, I would give Ted Cruz a position in the cabinet. I would have Ted Cruz on my side. I mean, how can you hate a guy who says he wants to abolish the IRS? How can you hate a guy that shuts down the government? I just can't.
If you go on a first date with a guy and he says to burn it all down, you give him a second date. That's the rule.
I just think you got to give a guy a chance because it sounds like our goals are fairly similar. I think that Ted Cruz probably is. What's funny about this is that I think that Ted Cruz, and this speaks to his character, which I don't like. I think that Ted Cruz just tries to position himself as a little bit more conservative than Rand. You know what I mean? That he kind of like pulls the war hawk card a little bit, not because he necessarily believes it, because he wants big government, but because I feel like Rand is so popular, and it's all about Rand Paul, that Ted Cruz, this is why I think he didn't join him in his filibuster, is that he doesn't like that Rand steals all the spotlight all the time. Do you think that's fair, Piper?
I think that's fair. I think you won't hear Jon Stewart saying anything positive about Ted Cruz the way he's shown a little bit of support for Rand Paul. I think Ted Cruz kind of has a right to be jealous. I'm not tweeting any bikini pictures of Ted Cruz anytime soon. But no, I think, yeah.
You're right. There's no bikini pictures for Ted Cruz. Oh God, I'm having such a blast. I'm having so much fun. Oh, this is probably one of the best podcasts I think that Fred has ever been done. We've been having so much fun on this. So I like Ted Cruz, but he's not my guy. And there's a couple of other candidates that are interesting. There's Scott Walker, and then there's Rick Perry. And when I compare these candidates all side by side, it's like Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, Scott Walker, Rick Perry. everybody else. And is that about how you guys feel? Are there any other candidates whatsoever that even get any interest in your eyes, ladies?
I like Ben Carson. I like him. I like that he's a doctor, like Ron Paul. I have a huge crush on Ron Paul, but I like that he's not like a politician. He's I don't know. He kind of just everything that he says is pretty solid, and he just kind of speaks what he thinks. He doesn't really have doesn't seem like he has a huge agenda that he's working with. He's pretty authentic. I like him.
What do you think about Ben Carson, Laura?
So I actually met Ben Carson at CPAC, and I was getting a drink of water when we were out in the hall, and he was heading towards a happy hour, and I turned around, and I'm right there with him, and so I walked in, and I pretended like I was part of his security crew. But Ben Carson, once upon a time, made a statement about supporting the restrictions on gun control magazine restrictions, 7 rounds in a magazine. He supported that, and so in my family, we die hard when it comes to firearms, and so that's a no-no. But I think I like the fact that he's a doctor. I know a lot of young people like the fact that he's a doctor, not a politician, because that's what the people are craving. But yeah, I am not a fan. Like you said, I've got Rand Paul way up here, and then some others. So
I kind of like
pretty loyal to Rand.
I like Ben Carson. I like him as a person, not really a politician.
Yeah.
He gets a lot of kudos for me for having the balls to stand up to President Obama and tell him to his face that the politically correct police are out in full force at all times, Mr. President. And I was just like, whoa! Like, that's gonna throw up my leg, baby.
Yeah.
It was almost as hot as the bikini picture. It was almost like that level of like. But the reason why I like Ben Carson is not necessarily because I agree with him on like the gun control issue and the homosexual marriage issue, or there's some other issues I believe, like legalization of marijuana, for example. But I always like to remain objective, ladies, and I try and think things through. Why does Ben Carson think that about guns? Why does Ben Carson think that about marijuana? Well, the man is a doctor, okay? And, 2 out of 3 doctors don't recommend, getting shot. So I can imagine that Ben Carson has probably seen a lot of horrible injuries of young men being harmed by gunfire, and he's probably seen a lot of children getting harmed by gunfire. And I can imagine that probably is what is impacting his psychology in that. I don't agree with him, but I can understand where he's coming from. And the same with marijuana, like smoking something, anything, is just not good for you. And so I can imagine that Ben Carson's beliefs about guns and drugs come from the fact that he's a medical doctor. But why I like Ben Carson is because, to me, it elevates the brains in the room. Like, when I looked at when Ron Paul was running in 2008 and 2012, ladies, it was Ron Paul versus the stupids. Ron Paul versus the idiots. Rick Perry, literally going nah, I would eliminate the, and Ron Paul's like, yes, every institution, eliminate them all, right? But I like Ben Carson in the race because, just look at this slate of candidates compared to the last 2 Republican presidential cycles.
Absolutely.
It feels like the room has gotten a little bit smarter. We've got a little bit better representatives. They're not perfect. And we've got our Rand Paul, who kind of performs our libertarian wing, but it feels like our movement's getting stronger, and it feels like the Republican Party is finally starting to catch on to these ideas and starting to put forward better candidates. Do you guys agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah. 110%. I think, you do a comparison of right versus left. We have, how many? 2 hands worth of candidates, and a few notable ones, and the left has, Hill Dog.
Yep.
Well, speaking of, that's what I wanted to segue to. I want to talk about Hillary Clinton. Ladies, you're betraying your genders. How could you betray your genders and not vote for Hillary for the first woman president? What is wrong with you, Piper? How come you're not going to vote for Hillary Clinton? She's got a vagina.
I personally, I know a lot of liberals say this, but I actually mean it. I don't think that the government really has any business in my my decisions. Like, as a female, I think that I enjoy feminism that means equality. The current Feminism Act is kind of a joke. I think it's kind of I mean, I'm gonna get a lot of flack for saying this, but I think it's kind of an excuse for women to convince other women that we need the government to help us pay for our birth control and for all these things. Personally, morally, I'm a big believer in like not
subsidizing birth control.
Yeah, I mean, like the whole Hobby Lobby thing. I think that they should get their own say in that kind of stuff. If you don't like it, you can work for someone else. I'm getting off topic. I feel like a politician right now. But to answer your question straight up, I will not. I love Hillary Clinton as a person. She and I have the same personality type, Myers-Briggs. She's very educated. She's very. I'm sorry. I really like Myers-Briggs, but she's very well educated. I don't think she's super. I was just talking to my dad about this the other day, and I said, I think she's really smart. And my dad said, she's not smart, she's just educated. And I thought, like, he just hates her because she's a woman and he's stubborn. But no, I think he kind of had a point after watching some of her talk. She's educated, but she's cool. Her little campaign ad definitely tugged on the heartstrings, but she has way too much baggage. I don't care if you're a girl. If you have that much baggage in other countries and accepting all those donations from countries that treat women very poorly, I heard a statistic that I haven't confirmed, but I did hear that she paid, I mean, according to American standards for talking about the wage gap, she herself paid women less than men. Since we're not acknowledging what kind of work they did, we can throw that statistic out there too.
Well, when she was a senator, that was when she was a senator. She was a government employee, and she paid her female employees like 73 cents to the dollar. 72 cents to the dollar. Thank you, Laura. I just want to make the comment. Somebody just chimed in on Facebook while they're watching us. This is from Joe Barnes. He says that Rand doesn't support the USA Freedom Act unless some of it is amended to his liking. I want to make sure that that was noted in there. But I wanted to go back to Hillary Clinton here for a moment because, ladies, I may have told you about this yesterday, Laura, when you and your mom and I were chatting about Hillary Clinton. But this is something that our audience needs to know. When universal suffrage was proposed, giving women the right to vote, the anti-suffragettes, the people who were trying to stop women from getting the right to vote, argued that if you give women the right to vote, they're going to vote with their vaginas, meaning that they're going to, but they're visceral, which physical, meaning that women are incapable of using logic, that women will always act emotionally. They will vote irrationally based on their emotions. And a lot of women have come out and said specifically that the reason why they are voting for Hillary is specifically because she is a woman, not knowing that she paid women less than men, and not knowing that by doing so they are confirming what the anti-suffragettes said. They are proving the anti-suffragettes right. Laura, do you think that women shouldn't vote?
I thought you were going to ask me. Absolutely not. I think they should remain in the kitchen, and I think they should be forced to make sandwiches all day. That's what we were made for. With the vacuum.
In bathing suits.
In a bathing suit.
Yes! It's my utopia.
Can I touch on the Hillary thing real quick?
Go ahead, Laura.
Okay, so you got me real fired up because I am so anti-Hillary, it's unbelievable. Just as I hate to see minorities attach themselves and align themselves with the Democratic Party because that's the propaganda that they spit out. I cannot stand it when women do the same thing. I know that minorities and I know that women have more brain power than to just follow and align with a party that tells them to do so. I'm a woman, and I'm sorry, but subsidized birth control is not my first priority. I'm worried about the economy. I'm worried about national defense. I'm worried about all of the same things that that the Democratic Party assumes only males are concerned about. It's just, don't underestimate my intelligence because I have a vagina. I'm good at making sandwiches, and I can also vote. So,
Piper, how's your sandwich game?
Not too good. I can make, I'm a nanny, and I make a lot of peanut butter and jelly, and even that gets messy. So, I love the idea of being a stay-at-home mom and having a lot of kids, and that sounds like a really good time, but I don't think I'd be very good at it. So I guess I'm just going to have to rely on my brains to make me some money, and I'll find a nice stay-at-home dad to make some sandwiches.
Well, just so you know, I work from home. All right. So. All right, well, so I want to move on to one final topic, and we're going to do another segue here. This is more news of the day, but I want to talk about these libertarian issues that we care about because, right now there's two big stories that are happening. This is Baltimore, the riots in Baltimore, which have started to die down, and of course there is the juxtaposition of that with the bikers that had a big shootout in Texas. And the media is saying, ladies, that the way that the coverage for this is that nobody is saying, calling these bikers thugs, right? And they're saying that, that it's unfair, all these white bikers were being treated so kindly by the police, and yet all of these protesters were treated like dog dirt. So before I launch into my opinion of why I think there is a big chasm of difference between the biker gang situation and the Baltimore riot situation, I'd like to know what your thoughts are. First, Piper, if you don't mind, could you tell us what do you think about these two situations, and what do you think about the state of civil liberties in America, and how do these two situations reflect on that?
I actually don't know very much about the shooting. I've heard about it, the one in Texas. I've heard about it. I've seen a little bit on Twitter, but I actually wasn't even aware that, of course, I mean, obviously the media is going to freak out about something and make it about race, but no, I don't know too much about that. I know the Baltimore riots. I think that, shameless Rand Paul plug, he wants to demilitarize the police force, and I think that that's a great idea because I think that these riots going on are, I wouldn't say justified, but not surprising, because of, police abuse in the past. I don't necessarily think that that's a race issue. I think that that's a police issue. I think I'm going to throw out statistics that it might be a little bit butchered, but something like 20% of drug users are African Americans, but 60% of drug users that are incarcerated are African Americans. There's obviously an issue there. So I don't think that it's surprising. I don't think it's justified, but and I don't really think it's about. I'm kind of contradicting myself. I don't necessarily think it's about race. I think that there's bigger issues in the police force. I think that white people are treated unfairly sometimes by cops too. So I don't know if that really answers the question, but
that's all right.
I haven't really seen
no problem.
the Texas thing as much.
Let me toss it over to Laura. Laura, are you familiar with the dynamics of these two situations? And what do you think is at stake here?
So I was actually sort of surprised to see that that story or that headline, that point of view, pop up on my news feed by some fellow libertarians. And so I read the articles, and I took it into consideration. But I disagree with the point that there was unfair treatment of either party. When I look at the pictures, of course I could be wrong, I'm not there, but when I look at the pictures in Texas versus Baltimore, you see the pictures of the gang shooting, and all of the gang members are hanging out on their tailgates, just chilling, looking at the ground. And you look at Baltimore pictures, I mean, I'm sorry, but the gang members in Texas didn't have tear gas throwing them at police officers. They weren't breaking store windows. Like I said, there could be more that I don't know about, but just from looking at the articles that I did see and did read, there wasn't as much revolt against the police officers in Texas. And so, I mean, if you're not...
Yeah,
Go
allow
ahead.
me to sort of to fill in the gaps on this one. But my take on this situation is that the difference between the two was that the bikers, they were on someone else's private property, and yeah, it got trashed because there was a shootout there at this Twin Peaks restaurant where they all were. But the difference was that the rioters were destroying other people. They were going out looting, burning, stealing, destroying other people's private property, and the police, at first, the mayor backed off, allowing them to destroy all of this. But in Texas, the response was different. The cops moved in and started killing them. So here's the thing, ladies, and I'm very much watching, watchdog of police. But the difference here was that the Baltimore rioters were allowed to get away with a lot. How many were arrested? How many were killed other than Freddie Gray? But the Texas response was they moved in and they killed those guys, and it was done quickly. And I think that it's unfair to try and compare those two situations in the sense that that the people are treating the biker gangs more favorably. By what? Killing them as quickly as possible? So to me, I think that the narrative that you're discussing about where African Americans they do drugs at the same rate as whites, but they are prosecuted at a higher rate. I have seen some of those statistics, and there are those claims do hold merit, which is why we need to end the war on drugs. But when it comes to an issue of violence, some of the statistics that I've seen, I'm trying to speak objectively here. I'm not biased towards one. The only bias I have is against the government. But African Americans, as a proportion, compared to whites, they're a much smaller community, of course, than whites in this country. They do commit more crimes, but a lot of that is probably because of the war on drugs in this country. So no matter what the problem is, the government doesn't seem to be the solution. The government exacerbates these things. But if we're living in a sort of an anarchist utopia, of course, the biker gangs, they're only killing each other. But the Baltimore rioters are going out and destroying other people's private property. So I think that's why those two situations aren't exactly as the media narrative would like to try and paint it. But otherwise, I just want to say, ladies, thank you very much for coming on the show. We're going to go ahead and end it. Piper, I'm super impressed. You come back anytime, and
Thank you. I would love to. This is fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that you've got a really bright future ahead of you, and I'm really excited that I could introduce you to my audience, and I hope that you continue to speak out about these issues, because we certainly need more, not just beautiful, but intelligent women such as yourself. A beautiful girl can be a dime a dozen, but a beautiful girl who is also as intelligent as she is beautiful, that is just a rare jewel. So thank you for speaking out. Thanks for standing with Rand. Laura, great job on your first day at the Libertarian Republic.
Thanks.
And here we are. We got started at 8 a.m. this morning, and now it's 8 p.m. at night. I told you I was going to work you hard.
Liberty never sleeps.
That's right. Liberty never sleeps. I'll be seeing you first thing tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the Freedom Report podcast. If you enjoy the show today, don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes. Leave us a 5-star review. A written review will help us spread the message. And if you don't have an Apple device, you can also find us on Stitcher. Go to Stitcher.com, download the Android app, and subscribe to the Freedom Report podcast. Don't forget to come back every single day to your home for economic freedom and personal liberty at thelibertarianrepublic.com.